Morning, everyone.
Good morning.
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 Thanks for joining me this morning. This is being recorded. You probably saw the warning, and I will make it available for you guys to review. We will go fast and furiously. I like to tell people this is kind of like drinking from an AI fire hose, but that's the intent. And I hope you will get a lot out of this morning's session.
Appreciate you doing this.
Pleasure.
Yeah.
Absolute pleasure. Well, let's, in the interest of time, because I do have a hard stop at 10:30, and I want to allow a little time to answer your questions. We'll go ahead and start, and then I'll just let people in as they come in. Can everybody see my screen up here all right?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yep.
Great. All right. So this is born out of something I call an AI Clarity Plan workshop. What you're getting ready to see is a presentation that I go in and do for companies in mass. So at the third part of this, when we talk about individual plans in your group, understand that normally this is in the context of a company and how that company comes together and how they might utilize AI as a company. That was born out of just a presentation I used to call the AI catch-up that I've probably done 60 or 70 times over the last 3 years. And it's been a discipline of mine just to stay up with the technology. I joke, but it's seriously, I've done these within weeks of each other and actually have had to update the presentation just because AI, as you know, just advances that fast. All right. You might notice everybody in the audience here might be distracted. You're like, hey, why are they on their phones? Well, that's the fun part of this is if you want to play the home version of that, you can scan that QR code right now on your cell phone, or you can go to menti.com and enter that code in, and there's a little interactive part. This is really a 3-act play. We'll go through the catch up and just kind of look at the advancement of AI and where it's at. The point of that is just to see how quickly it's going and how those changes are compounding. And so we get a sense of trajectory of how AI is advancing. I'm going to take you through use cases, real world use cases. As you know, and maybe what attracted you, it might be why you're here today. There is so much AI noise. And on one side of the camp, you've got it's destroying jobs. It doesn't work. There's nothing real useful from it. You're hearing the AI slop camp. And then on the other side, you're hearing a lot of AI hype. People are trying to sell their services or sell you agents or the next great thing. I want to show you real use cases. This is all based on something that I've come up with, which is the AI adoption scale. I think there are 7 stages to that scale. You'll hear me talk about this in this presentation today. And for those of you that submitted and requested your clarity plans, it's all based and scored on that scale. The thought of the scale itself came from, in another lifetime, I used to be a software trainer. And when I would go into corporations, I would realize there were 3 stages of adoption that they had to go through, and you couldn't skip those stages. The first was the fear stage. Can I do my job? Can I do this? The second was the basic stage. Okay, I can do my job with this new tool. And then there's the advanced stage. It's like, not only can I do my job, I can do it better. AI, I've come up with 7 stages. We'll talk about that. And then 3 is that clarity plan section. There's a little epilogue, a little soapbox about staying human I want to go through, and some issues I think are important for us to address about AI. And then, like I said, if we can, we'll have some time for questions. All right. I know why it's not advancing. There we go. What I like about this and this overview, although drinking from a fire hose is kind of uncomfortable at times, I feel like this provides the puzzle box lid. You know, we're all got a handful of pieces to the AI puzzle of what we've seen, what we've tried, what we've experienced, and we see people holding other pieces, but we really don't know how all of those go together. So I feel like today we're looking at that. We're looking at the puzzle box lid. So for those of you logged in, if you would, just take 1 minute, type in on your phones one word that would describe how you currently feel about AI. All right, we'll go on. Normally as presentations, we get that. We get excitement, I get trepidation, I get fear, I get anger, I get optimism. And the point is, they're all valid. Absolutely all valid. I share all those in a single day. We've witnessed, and those of you that are closer to my age, we've seen a lot of disruption by technology. We've never seen anything like this. And it's what I call horizontal disruption. It's disrupting all business sectors at different levels. And so it's all right to feel those things. We should feel those emotions. They're real and they're absolutely valid. All right. So here's the catch up. Most people still honestly are using AI like a smarter Google, but the world's already moved past it. What I mean by that is I'm just logging in the chat. I'm asking it maybe more detailed questions that I would put in a search bar, and AI is giving me back some answer or response. So what's changed? If we look at what happened between 22 and 2024, we can see there are all these releases. And, I've done these things, the whole history of AI and all that. And honestly, the concepts of AI started in the 1940s and 1950s, machine learning. It just took that long for compute power to catch up. Then in 2010, Google started an offshoot company called DeepMind, and they set out with the goal of, can we take the human brain, what happens in the human brain, and turn it into software? Sounded like a fantasy, sounded like just a pipe dream at that time, but they started having breakthroughs in the late 2010s. The point I want you to get out of this, between 2022 and 2024, the intelligence level of the AI and large language models went from that of an average high schooler to that of a PhD in that 2-year period of time. Then in 2025, if you remember that, the stock market kind of crashed for a moment, and there was this AI freak out because China released a model called DeepMind, which was smaller and cheaper, but it was really trained on the large LLMs that the US had developed. And everybody's like, oh my gosh, what's going on? Within months, we saw GPT 4.5, we saw Grok release, Gemini, another version of DeepSeek, Gemini, and then Claude 3.7. And really what changed then is, before, it was just a predictive machine. It was looking at a lot of data. And if you think about it, for those of us that are consultants, that's the way expertise works, right? We've witnessed things over a period of time that we get this gift of pattern recognition in our field, and we can predict certain things, and that makes us a consultant. So that's the kind of expertise that large language models had at that time, except it was just broad. It was a lot of general knowledge, and it would just try to predict what's next. The change that happened in 2025 is they added a couple other things. There was not just this memorization like a student cramming for a test, but now there was some reasoning going into it before it would respond. And what that looks like is really 3-tiered. It's like, the whole Covey thing, seek first to understand before being understood. The model would okay, do we really understand what the user's trying to ask us to do? And then it would think through it. And in some cases, and Grok was really the first to do this, is it would go out and send multiple agents to go back and do the research and find the possible answer. But then there would be another agent that's like a filter that say, okay, of these, what is the best answer? Is this really the answer they're asking for? And so the result was then fewer mistakes and smarter answers. And that's where we started getting rid of that hallucination and seeing that we could depend on it more and more. And the other thing that happened is they started training AI like a gamer. They would take two instances of large language models and show them a game and have them compete against each other. But then they would take a third agent that was like their coach, that would set some sort of reward system. And that cycle would just run on its own. And so that's how, they used it to, in the early days, to teach it to play chess or OK Go or all these big breakthroughs. That was the pattern that they used to train those models to do this thing. They just applied that application to large language models as a whole. That's why they said we need more content. We need to feed it more. And so it became like this beast that was just eating content and compute power. The other thing that happened is it started becoming more multimodal. And I just created this chart so people understand it. Think of modalities like languages. So it can understand text as an input, images, audio, video, code, and 3D objects. And it could think about that, and then it could speak those languages back out. if you looked at the software tools or the AI tools you were using at those times, those were like little disparate brush fires. But we're starting to see more and more of that becoming into the large language models at themselves. So at some point, your Claude, your Gemini, or your OpenAI, your ChatGPT, it's going to do all this naturally. All these things, you'll be able to talk to it, have it look at these things, and spit any of these things out within the model itself. All right, so why did this change everything? Well, AI can now improve itself, and it can improve itself faster because it's not waiting for us slow humans to train it or give it update cycles. It became more reliable. And that's part of the market adoption too, right? As we can trust it more, we'll start giving it more to do. And then it also became cheaper. And so, AI is not just getting bigger, it's getting smarter. And this was just the beginning. So 2025 was a pace that nobody expected. We saw the DeepSeek, those other models, and then the cadence just continued. It was Claude 4 and Gemini 2.0, and then open source models, and then Grok on the scene, and then GPT-5 and 5.1 and Gemini. So just in 12 months, we saw 13 major models that didn't exist before. So that's where we start really seeing that acceleration in 2025. What's happened in 2026? Okay, I call this the AI awakening, and it's models begetting models. Now, I want to clarify that AI is not totally writing itself, but it's very close to that point, and humans are less and less involved. So already shipping in this year, we've seen Llama Maverick, Gemini Throat, Claude Sonnet, GPT 5.4, Opus, GPT-5, and those three on the bottom, those made the news. So if you remember, if you followed along, Mythos came out and it was immediately yanked. They couldn't release it because there are security experts in the world that are full-time hackers that try to hack our defense systems, our financial systems, our health systems, all of our IT systems if they can. One of those on a good year maybe finds 1 to 2 vulnerabilities, and that's the service they provide. When they set Mythos out to do that before they released it, it found over 1,000 vulnerabilities in a week. And so that's when they knew they could not release it, that the world was not ready for it. They created something called Project Glasswing, where they invited companies in and they released it to companies to say, hey, this is what's coming. The explosion we're in is something that a person named Leopold Aschenbrenner actually wrote about. And he wrote it in a blog called Situational Awareness. It's still on the internet. It's a great read. I highly recommend it. He published it in 2024. And on the trajectory of AI advancement, with this being intelligence, this being time, so X is intelligence, Y is time, he predicted this hockey-shaped curve at some point because he knew at some point AI would be begetting AI, so that these changes and advancements would compound and come out quickly, and we would quickly get to superintelligence, which is another subject altogether. Now, if you look at this in 2024, he predicted that happening late 2027, maybe the start of 2028. And the reality is that's where we're at now. All right. So in 2026, the tools have changed, and the toolbox did too. So one of the things you'll get out of day when you'll see the examples is that real AI advancement is not so much how you interact with large language models. It's not about prop engineering or having the right mindset. It's knowing how to set up and build an ecosystem around you. And all the tools are there now. And really, Claude led that. I think that was the explosive growth of Anthropic. That is my tool of choice today, although I look at them all. And it's because they've created these things that are becoming standards in the industry of skills, connectors, plugins, schedules, and memory. And the way you can arrange those allows you to have AI systems that compound, that continue to get smarter and do more and more. All right, so 3 years, then we saw 4 major shifts. In 2024, it was text in, text out, one question, one out, answer. You prompt, edit, paste, and you get generic knowledge. And that's what I call the manual chat plateau. That's where a lot of people are stuck and where they stay. And you know what? A lot of people are just fine being there, and that's okay. 2025, we saw text, image, and video make big leaps. We saw multitask completion, so we could have AI do something. It can work out autonomously. We could connect it to our tools. So now it had tools in hand. It could do certain things. And then we started knowing how to build context around it with our documents and our data. The year and the season we're in now is all modalities happen in real time, truly autonomous workflow. AI operates our tools for us, and it gives us the ability for us to be on top of it and use our systems, our workflows, and manage our decisions. All right, fire hose part, we're going to get in. I'm going to do a demo. So I'm going to drag another thing in here, and I'll come back to this Menti presentation at the end of that. So let me drag. All right. All right. So again, I'm just going to, some of this is my evolution. These are actual tools that I have built and used over the years, starting where the technology was at the time, onto what is the highest level of the advancement scale. And that is a full operating OS operating system bound around AI. We had a basic chat window, and then you could add projects. They added this thing called custom GPTs at some point, which is the first start of agents. The metaphor I like to use for projects or agents with people is they have an instruction set and then they have a knowledge base. So imagine HR came to you and said, we have an unlimited amount of interns. I just need a good job description. That's the instruction set you can put into a project or GPT. And then you can upload files to them. Instead of waiting for them to acquire the experience, I can scrape the internet. I can put a knowledge base together. Or I can put my own brand guidelines, my own SOPs and things like that. So it follows that. And so early on, built a few of those. I had a lot just to show you when I migrated a year ago, I think, February 2026. So February of this year, to using Claude more than I was using OpenAI. I had it export all my data, and Claude built this dashboard for me. This is not a brag, but I just want to show you how much of an active AI user I was over the time. So in that over 3 years, I had over 1,500 conversations, almost 14,000 messages. The first tool we created for a client is that one of our clients was Indie Humane, and they had this problem where they did not ever want to use stock photography in any of their marketing, signage, or anything like that. But they would have these pictures that volunteers took of the animals in their shelter really quick. Well, we needed them knocked out, posable, wearing collars, wearing tags, looking at the camera. So we just created this that we could share. It was a GPT. They could log into it. I just took a recent screen capture. And you see really quickly, it just puts a nice bright tag on it, make sure the dog's looking at us fully. The image is all knocked out. The resolution is high, real time saver, money saver, bit workflow. For my own garage sanity, I created this for her. So as she finds things, she just logs into things and it's like, hey, what do you want? I go and think, what do you got to show me? That's how it addresses her. And she puts the image in, it goes out, it can see the images. Remember, AI is multimodal, so it can read images really well, screen captures anything you give it. It went out, did the history, found out what it was. Look, it said you got inspiring book stack there. So it read all the books that it's sitting on in my office. Interesting. Knew my reading list. That was a couple of years ago. That was how we started creating tools of what AI could really do for us. A tool that is free for the most part that I still highly recommend is something called NotebookLM. If you just got to have a Google account and you can access it. If you want more, be able to have more conversations, you got to get a membership, but it's relatively inexpensive. When you create a new notebook, it just works in these 3 modes. It's kind of a great interface. You can add sources to it, so it's really secure. If you have confidential documents, contracts, and stuff you don't want in the cloud, then this is the answer for you, right? So it can go out and look at websites. It can look at YouTube videos. You can upload files, like I said, and then it just puts them all over here. Then you have this AI window, large language model, where you can ask it things just about that content. And then this is the multimodal output already programmed for you. So based on that content, it can create those podcasts for you, a slide deck, video reviews, mind maps, data tables, you name it. One was handbook advisor. So for our HR department, we have our handbook in it, and we had it create a slide deck in Spanish for new employees that explained our handbook for them. And the great thing when it does that, you can export that right out into PowerPoint. You can make any adjustments. You can tell it your hex colors and all that. But probably one of the more exciting ones, we have a sales prepper. And all I did is I put all of, some of our sales stuff into it. I pointed it to our website so it knew all about our service lines, who we are. And then we had gotten an RFP from Notre Dame. And so I stuck that in there. And so now you can sit there and ask questions about fit. So our sales reps can use this to say, hey, why should we do work together? What might be some of the objections we have? And it can prepare them for a sales call. But this one's really cool, guys. Okay. So it has this ability to create an audio overview. And if you click this instead of just clicking this, it'll allow you like what the host should focus
Exactly.
on.
We are constantly told that paper is dead, that physical media is just a relic, and the future is entirely digital.
It is definitely the prevailing narrative.
But then you look at the actual behavior of a massive, incredibly sophisticated institution like the University of Notre Dame.
Yeah.
And you realize, okay, so I want you to picture the modern world for just a second.
Hardy Poorman actually has a division. Well, actually, I was wondering if a minority spend might be an issue for Notre Dame.
That is a fantastic question. You are actually hitting on a major part of how they pick partners.
It's not just a minor detail either. It's actually one of their core evaluation criteria for the.
Okay, so an incredible prep tool. All right. Then Claude came out, and I want to just kind of real quickly, it's not a how-to, but those things like skills and connectors, you can create projects in Claude, right? So if you create, every project has right here, its instruction set. So that's kind of its job description. And then it has stuff that you can upload to it. Very powerful. But then they added this, and this is really what crashed the markets when Claude released all this. It was not the fact that it was a strong LLM. It's that it came with these customizable sets and plugins that gave it incredible capability. Like it comes with a plugin for legal. And so it has legal skills, PhD level legal skills you can put into it. So you can build a legal project. You can build a data analysis project just by adding these things. Another area of AI advancement, and this looks a lot more complex than it is. This is a piece of software called N8N. There are a number of them out there. This is what's called a node-based automation application. Indy Humane had a problem that most companies have when it comes time to social media. Because it's hard and most companies don't have the resources to have a lot of writers or a lot of people gathering stories, they tend to write, we tend to write in one voice when it comes to our social media. But a lot of organizations have a wide audience segment. Indy Humane is the epitome of that. So they have people that have money that want to donate money. They have people that are animal welfare advocates. They have volunteers. They have people that want to foster. The people who are animal welfare advocates and the people that have multi-billion-dollar estates that want to donate money speak two very different languages and maybe on different channels. So you're not doing yourself a service writing the same message in the same social channel for both those. So how do you do it? So that's what this does, all right? So it really it has a Slack listener. So any volunteer can have their Slack and they can just talk into it or quickly type a story into Slack. This is invited to the Slack channel, so it's always listening. So then it normalizes it, converts it, it rates it if it's a good story or not. If it has media attached to it, it puts the metadata and tags it. It then takes the story, it turns it into prompt, and it hands it over to the first AI agent who understands all the channels and all the audience and all their audience types. and it basically determines which audience the story's good for and how it should be told. It turns those into prompts and then passes it on to the writer who writes each of the stories. And then it takes those stories, it goes to a Google Drive, creates a new Google document, writes the stories on the Google document, and then saves it. And then somebody on the other side gets a note that something's happened. And so just so you can see this real quick, here's one as a test. We watched nothing more, quick message. We watch a dog turn the corner, Tibble brighter, blah, blah, blah. There's the picture. All that happens back in the background behind the scenes. All right. Another really great use of AI that I love is chatbots on your website. And I hope you see why. It is not only a great tool for the audience that's coming to your website, but it's also incredible. It gathers an incredible amount of data for you. So here's an ag school. You can give it a personality. So their mascot is the bison. You can put some suggested questions and you can say, is this school free? And hang in, I'm roaming for the answer. It goes out. And the beautiful thing about this is you can train these chatbots only on the content that's on the website or any documents you get it. And you can fence it in. So it's not going to go out, use any external data, have any hallucinations. Behind the scenes, you can see in real time, and this is just the last few days, here's the school's latest prompts. Here's some where they didn't find the answers. So that tells us, hey, can I get a phone number for the Montezuma? Is there a virtual enrollment for elementary? So all these are great questions because they just added a new school. So obviously we need to take some documents, either add that to the website or put that. It also will tell us user insights, the emotional state, what the intent is, the types of questions. So it really gives you a lot of intelligence about how your clients, what they're looking for and what they're wanting in business. All right, next level up, vibe coding. Everybody's probably heard of vibe coding. I've watched it for a long time. There are a lot of programs for vibe coding. There's React, there's Cursor, there's Base 44. I like Lovable. I use Lovable. Well, what is vibe code? Vibe coding is where you have an app, you tell it something, and it builds an application for you. Now, I'm going to throw a caveat to that. I highly believe in I use Claude AI specialist projects to create a specialist whose job is to assist me in this initiative. And I give it all the how-to documentation of the program I'm going to use to. So for example, I have a specialist in Claude who's the project flow project whose job is to help me with this project. And then in its knowledge base, I put all the how-tos, training manuals for project flow, and it coaches me how to interact to get the most out of it. As I transitioned into full AI here, the person that took over my job needed project management software. And anybody who has paid subscriptions for Asana or Monday or any of those programs, they're great, but they get really expensive as you start adding users to us. I think we were paying $1,000, $1,200 a month for our teams. And they do a great job, but eventually you're fitting your workflow into their templates and their models. You can't really customize. This application, 100% vibe coded, and we are now into our 8th version of it. All of it happens within in Lovable. When you're ready to launch, you say publish, and it turns it into a website. And so we have this application for our company that we can use where people log in. You can see your own dashboard. You can have projects here. You can look at any of these projects. Let's see here. And you can have tasks. You can view those tasks individually. You can drag them. You can interact with them. You can track. You can edit a project. You can save it as a template. You can put it on hold. You can view it as a table, as a board. You can drag boards. So as we continue to add features, we just keep adding them. Now, the beauty of once you vibe code an application, and I do believe we're entering a season what I call the season of personal software development. That's why SaaS is freaking out and taking a hit. Why not, if you can, just spin up your own application, your own tool? And you can start small, something easy. But for example, what I'm working on with this right now is one of the things that our customer success manager has to do is every Friday, she sends status update emails out to all the clients to tell them the status of their project. So from a a peace of mind standpoint, they don't have to worry about it over the weekend. Well, now I'm just building a button in this so she can go to any project and she can say, click status emails, and it just writes those status emails for her. So you would never find something like that in Asana on Monday, but that's the power of then writing and vibe coding your own software. It is like a black box. It is the standard of the industry. It's been around. It's an enterprise piece of software. The interface is I liken it to Salesforce. It can do a lot. So the interface absolutely sucks and it's overwhelming. It serves the company well, but nobody likes using it. It's a necessary evil. But furthermore, it comes with a few canned reports. But if you need any specialized reports, you have to buy a piece of software called Clarity Report or Crystal Reports. And then you have to hire a SQL expert to write those reports for you, those queries. Well, the company came to me at the beginning of the year and said, do you think you can point AI at this? So I thought, well, I know you can do exports out of there. You could do these reports. If I could put some of those in a folder or a file, then maybe we could ask its questions. That was the premise. So we hired a SQL expert to look at it. They came, he said, give me a week at it to look at the databases and I'll get back with you. After 3 days, he came back and he said, whoa, hold on. There are over 324 tables or 380 tables, I forget, behind this with no schema. It's going to take me weeks to go in and understand the relationship of all these tables. And then only after that will I be able to write the first query. We said, that sounds expensive. Thanks and no thanks. Remember the plugins that I told you about with Claude? I launched the desktop version of Claude. I loaded the plugin of SQL and database experts, and I began dialoguing with that on a Mac that then grew into a Mac Mini. And through conversation, it took me from just command line interface to understanding the data, to then installing the data, to telling us how to create automated exports of the tables and those tables into a new database, to then building an MCP server on top of that data so that we can interface with it. And we continued that process through all the pieces of software in our operation. So we have a sales dashboard in real time that goes out and it pulls the data and it tells you what the revenue is. There's a daily shipping report now. So where it can go out is what's shipped. And so you can simply go into, hey, here's all the UPS stuff or the third-party stuff, or let's say the UPS prepaid. Now let's do this one. And I can say a preview and it's going to tell me, and here's all the people in the contact that have packages going out. And I can turn these on or not. And I can say test and then I can say it and it just runs and sends those emails out. Scheduling dashboard. So it looks at the operations and it looks at the daily detail and the job tracker. And I can say over the next 2 weeks, there's all of our machinery and the things in our company. We can start seeing where they're overloaded. We can visualize data in a way we never could before. Furthermore, it has a chat bot built into it, so I can ask it questions. What does the schedule look like now? Which cost center is the most loaded? What jobs are due? I can begin having operational intelligence that I could talk to of data that never would have happened from a SQL report or a piece of software. We have shipping. We have a purchasing dashboard. We're working on a quick estimate tool. So it goes out and gets the fields. So this will start with a tool that we'll test and make sure it works. And once it works, then you can just begin talking to it to get your estimates. Imagine what that would happen to our sales and CSR team, where they can just do initial estimates with having to engineer the job into it. We're working on a customer profitability. But here's the greatest one. Because we do a lot of pharma work, we have to have a whole system for managing incidents. If something goes wrong and something's wrong, we have to prove that we have SOPs and a system, a way of reviewing that. She manages all that in Teams, right? That's the best tool that she has. So she has input forms. She has a can board that tracks that incidences. She has follow-ups. But any reports she has to do or manual or any intelligence requires her and her interaction. This thing goes out to Teams. It connects all the instances in real time. It tells them what they're, the original department, the resolution outcome, the clients we're having with it, what the marketing trend is. But the crazy thing is you can go out and say, give me a summary. Which department has the most instances? I don't want to take the time for this, but this is the one that blew it away. Because this is operational intelligence, we're sitting across all these systems. It connected to the MCP server for the EPMS thing that attached to all the machinery and all the cost accounting. So now you can ask it questions like, hey, can you give us recommendations for a couple of changes we can make in operations that are going to have the biggest financial impact? And it gives us a full report of those. So imagine, the whole thing, this is AI as the OS of the company at some point. So to that point, I don't know if anybody knows the history of this company. Bob Poorman was a partner. He sadly died of ALS some years back. So in his honor, we created this whole thing called Ask Bob. Ask Bob sits on the top of all this. So you can go here and you can ask those operational questions at any time. What was shipped? What are we doing this year compared to last year? Who is our most profitable sales rep and why? Bob, is it time to buy a new press in this area yet? And it goes out in an AI mode. It has a little bit of his personality. It looks at all that, gathers all the data, and makes it. So it is that, again, that OS at the top of all things. All right. Now we get to the seventh pillar, AI as your own operating system. I'm going to explain this to you as simply as possible in a way that I've taught it to a cohort. I teach this, I've proven it, that I can take somebody wherever they're at with AI, and if you give me 6 lunches, 6 one-hour sessions over a 6-week period, we're getting ready to do another one every Wednesday, every lunch, I will take you, and this is how we will build you. And the beauty of it is this isn't really about AI. It's about using AI tools to build your own operating system and learning about AI by doing so. And everything is automated. I give you the skills. I give you the project command lead. I give you the drive connectors and all that. So in the first session, and this is an interactive teaching map that students have access to, you just learn then, okay, here's me. Here's how I tell Claude about me. And then here's how I go about using, and it's a skill I give you, a project building skill. And you just tell it, you load that skill. I teach them how to load that skill. It interviews you just like an HR person would and say, okay, what do you need? And it asks you some clarifying questions, and then it writes the instruction prompt for you to have that skill. And so they start there. They start building their specialists. The next week, we build a command center. And this is the intelligence. I give you the instruction prompt for that. It's the same thing. You create a project called My Command Center, and it will ask you some questions. It will interview you and ask you about some questions. And then it takes and creates an interview document for you. It's an extensive interview. It asks you about everything, your doctors, your personality, your goals, your work, your clients, people you know, and all that. And this is confidential stuff, so you don't have to feel insecure about sharing it. But if this is going to be your central advisor, the more it knows about you, the better the advice it can give you. So then my students, they go out, they take something called Whisper Flow, they pour themselves a glass of wine or talk into a tape recorder, and they just answer those questions and they just ramble. Tell them as little as they want or as much as they want. And then they go back to the command center, they upload it, and it automatically then, in the next session, we connect it to a Google Drive, and it goes out and has a skill called Drive Connect. And on a Google Drive, it builds all these files about you and for you, about the state of your jobs. So that's the start of our ecosystem. So imagine this. You have a system at work. You can get as many interns as you want. You now have this automation that will write the job description for you. So you can spin them up pretty quick and you can give them stuff. But the problem, if you've used AI, and this is where most people are stuck and it doesn't compound. I don't know if anybody remembers the first Christopher Nolan great film called Memento. And the guy, I think it was Guy Pearce or whatever, he had no memory whatsoever. And so as he'd go through the day, he would take a Sharpie and write on his skin like who he was as he figured it out and what was going on. He was trying to figure out AI works that way. It has no memory. So what this system does is the way that the scripts that I use in the project creator, it knows the first thing that there is a state file, the state of that job that lives on the Google Drive. And so when you launch it in an open session, the first thing it does, it greets you and it says, okay, let me catch up with the state. And it goes out and reads that state file. It goes, okay, I know where they're at. I know where it's going on. Where are we picking up? We picking up with this? Then the command center has access to all states and it has to all the files about you. So you can say, catch up to the command center and it will go out and it starts looking at all the files. Furthermore, there's an inbox. So I could tell it one project to pass a note to another project, because the key that people don't understand is they treat Claude as one thing. Claude is, I liken it, it is a utility. It's like electricity, right? Electricity in itself has no value. It's just shocking. Electricity connected to your refrigerator does one thing. Electricity connected to a life support machine for a loved one does another thing. Both highly specialized. The value is in how you use it. So Claude, in a sense, overall is the electricity. These specialists are the specialists. They do set tasks. So I teach and talk people through chat. Chat, if you download the application of Claude, you can create projects and in both the cloud version. And if you look right here, you have cloud version and co-work. In the cloud version, you can create projects here. So I have projects for all aspects of my life. I have projects for work, for initiatives, for books. I have personal. My daughter was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. She can have manic episodes. I have an agent that does nothing but help me talk her off the ledge. So if she sends me a text or she's spitting out, I put it in there. It tells me how I should talk back to her and why and how that's going to keep her from further spinning out. I have a functional health advisor, but then I have projects. There's project flow. Here's my command center, right? But then there's co-work. Why co-work? Think of this as strategy and token rich. These are things that need great deals of intelligence and context windows, and you have that in the cloud version. Co-work, these are the workers. These are the ones that are doing things, right? So I have my clarity port generator. I have an RFP system for Miles. It has access to word process tools and things like that. So it builds RFPs and it gets smarter over time. So it almost automates the work. That teaching map that I showed you, that was created by me talking to my specialist project for the command center. My class learns how to use a controller. Well, what's a controller? Okay, the command center is the advisor. The controller is your traffic manager. It's the person that tells you that's everything on tap. You can schedule projects right here. So in my controller, every morning at 7 a.m., it does what's called a rundown. So I just log into my controller and it says, okay, today's July 21st. Here's what's urgent. You have a briefing today from 9 to 10:30. You have 8 registrations of June, the welcome email, the teams. I have a workshop, a clarity workshop for tomorrow for Caldwell Van Riper. There are 32 individual reports and a branded deck. Tells me about the newsletter, cohort survey, unread. Here's some state files. Here's what's blocked. Here's some upcoming deadlines. Here's what it thinks the highest leverage. Confirm the briefing, welcome email, everything else can wait. The great thing with this is now I can just talk to this single thing. And by the way, a game changer, you install it as an application, runs on Mac and PC. You never have to type again. Anything that has a cursor prompt, you can hold down the function key on your keypad, enable it, and just talk to it. It cleans up the language. For interfacing with AI, I think it's much better. So I can just hold it down and I can just talk back and say, yes, that's all good. I'm in the midst of the clarity briefing right now. We had 15 people register. 8 did show up. We're in the midst of it. I'm actually demoing you in front of them. The newsletter did go out on Monday. The emails went out as well. I think I have everything ready for Caldwell Van Riper. Please go ahead and update the state on all projects. And this is the thing that can go out from one entry point and it can just update the state of all your projects. So when your team members, your specialists log in, they know exactly where you're at and what's going on. And then behind the scenes is a Google app that's running in real time that is a live dashboard of all my projects. So all those things I showed you, and this is spread across cloud, cowork, cloud, and 2 different computers because I have a dedicated Mac that does the integration stuff internally at Hardy Portman. So it looks at in real time, looks at any of those projects. I could just say, okay, just show me the stuff that needs attention. It's that. It's a clarity plan generator. I can open it up. Here's what it does. Here's that. All the stuff. Here's some questions. Here's what it might or might not know. So I can sit here and just hold my function key down in Notepad and I can just answer those questions. But this helps me manage my life. This is a shameless plug. I just finished up a group in a test cohort of everything I'm showing you. And I think the best quote I got out of it, a woman named Jennifer. Jennifer's 44. She is a mother of 2 boys, but she's an entrepreneur. She also has a gig where she's a virtual administrative assistant for a CEO. She has another side gig where she staffs logistic companies that do Amazon routes. And then she also has a podcast as part of a ministry that she does. The way she described it, she said, all my goals, all the things that I'm trying to do, all the balls I have in the air is like this uncontrollable octopus in my brain. Now, for the first time, I feel like I have a central advisor and I have all these things I can manage. So anyway, so that's what an operating system looks like at the highest level. All right, let me get back to the Menti presentation. Saw the demos. I do like to show this. I don't know how Will Smith, Spaghetti became the universal visual IQ identifier of how far AI has come. But here's 2 of the exact same prompts issued in 2023 and then in January of 2026. And it has perfect.
Oh, that's
Anyway, I just think that's a fun visualization of just how far advancement had come. All right, Clarity Briefing Group. Thank you for those who got your briefings in yesterday. I did see some more come in this morning. I will get you those. Each of those will receive your individual briefing plan. Also keep in mind, and I do have an affiliate program. If you have clients that you think it would be of value to do one of these workshops interior for them, I think as I go through this data, I think you will piece together on your own how powerful this is for a whole group of how they see others in their organization use AI, where they are and where they are with other companies. So first, what is the AI adoption scale? Again, I feel like, it starts with awareness. I've heard of AI. Then I've used it sometime. Then it's like, okay, I'm using it as part of my workflow. There's that whole advancement thing. It does make me faster. Automation, it's doing some stuff without me. Agents, it decides and executes. I have specialized agents. And then the North Star is I direct a team of agents through an AI operating system. So that's just the concept this is built on. Now, I do want to say another advantage of this that I'm seeing, and it's top of mind because I'm getting ready to speak on it at the end of July for a national organization, but it's what I call the AI gap. And the AI gap is that gap between where you think you are and you actually are. And I'm starting to find out that there are a group of people that are not as far along as they thought, or they're in the comfort zone, meaning you all might leave today with the thought, I'm okay staying here. And I think what it is, and what I'm starting to realize is this comfort trap where each of these are so incrementally stronger than the previous one that you're like, hey, I'm using it. I'm okay. I'm doing it here because you have no idea what the future with this looks like, right? So that's another value of this. All right. So where does everyone else stand? Where is the rest of the world? As you can see, I keep up on these stats, so they're pretty recent. So recent surveys, 50% of employees use AI at work. 65% believe that it's helped their productivity. I like this one. This is powerful. I just grabbed this week. I just saw it for the first time, this report. 75% of executives say their AI strategy is more for show because they want to say we're an AI doubled. So it is. It's the AI hype. I see this other thing as I go into companies that is it's an uncomfortable situation. It's a culture killer, and leadership has bought into AI because the promise and its AI hype of moving from a labor model to a capital model. And they're like, okay, we can reduce capital, labor, and all that money can go into capital that will compound and those people will not. And that is their main motivation. So then it gets pushed down to middle management to start doing that. And their goal is trying to replace people and automate things rather to empower people, see that increase in profitability, and then maximize their AI strategy on top of that. 79% of organizations face challenges with adopting, so nobody's alone in this. And only 7% of organizations surveyed feel like they've scaled AI across the full enterprise. So that's where it is. All right. So how does that clarity planner work? That's why it's unique. It scores in 3 areas. Adoption, how often you use it. But that's only 30% of the score, because you might have somebody that just chats with it and they use it hundreds of times a day. Well, that doesn't mean they're more advanced. Modalities, well, you got to use it more than just talking to it. So you got other things. Mindset is critical. I have companies that rank high, but they have hardly adoption. That's because they have the right mindset of how they're going to put it and how they're going to do that. And then all that, are you prepared for readiness? Do you have things for workflow clarity and ownership and training and infrastructure and data handling in mind? So that's how this assessment works. All right. Here's this group as a glance. We had 5 people. Overall average was 48%. They're in the augmentation stage. So if those 5 people were in a company, that's where the company is. All right. Mindset scores relatively high, adoptions at a 59, readiness at a 40%, modalities, right? So that's the largest gap, mindset versus modalities, meaning they believe in AI, but they've not touched a lot of the other tools yet, right? What's blocking them? 3 said, I don't know what AI can do beyond the basics. That's pretty common. You don't know what you don't know. I'm supposed to automate something, but I don't know what it can do. So how do I even pick what I can automate? My current tools don't do enough, or I just don't have the time, right? What do they want AI to help with? Sales funnel management. Some people named workflows. So all 5 people name workflows. That's really important. That's unusual. So when I go in a group, that's important. Like that's part of the modality. Everybody knows what they would use it for. They just don't know how to get there. They don't know if they're allowed to get there. And they don't know if they have the blessing of the company to get there. That's that whole, what happens if they're not empowering people from within the organization. So in this group, 2 said, hey, sales funnel content management. Some said sales content management, sales coaching from calls, and implementation tracking. So 5 of the goals are explicitly stated. The 5th supports sales delivery. Everyone is repetitive, template friendly, and build on existing knowledge, and none require creative generation. Meaning what? If they had the power or the know-how to do that, these are perfect candidates, every one of these things. And this is the loop I would talk about. This is the loop that keeps a group stuck and holds most companies back. I don't know what AI can do, so I can't name a workflow bill. I don't use it regularly, so I still don't know what's possible. And they get stuck in that cycle. So what breaks that loop? See it work on something real. That's why the fire hose, that's why I started doing that. The fire hose was like, oh my God, I had no idea. I had no idea that that could even be done. I had no idea that there is a process to be done. I had no idea or a belief that I could possibly do that someday. The good news of this group, proper mindset. That's a pretty high score. 4 of 5 verify facts before trusting AI output. 5 of 5 are comfortable using AI drafts as starting points. 3 or 5 worry about losing judgment with careless AI adoption. So that's good. The highest, we had somebody that had a mindset score of almost 80, and the lowest was 54, which that's not bad. So this team doesn't need to be convinced that AI should be used carefully. It needs activation and infrastructure. Again, I think you can get the scene. I'm really excited about Caldwell Van Riper. We have 35 people involved in that, and I guarantee that the stuff that I'm seeing in the data, they're ready to be unleashed. They just don't know that they have the permission. They don't know if it's safe. They don't know how to keep human agency in using it. They don't know if it's a cheat. They don't know if the company will bless the tools, and they don't know who's going to hold them accountable and manage all of it. All that comes out of these sessions. What are your SOPs? What are your personal SOPs? Start gathering your case studies, start gathering your outcomes. Put them in a Google Drive and then drop them in NotebookLM and start talking to them, start interacting with them. You have to get the context of your business and yourself into a format that AI could access and understand. So it's not just talking to you to serve you, it has some context to work and do the things you want to do. Close the modality gap. Start experimenting with all the other tools. There are tools out there that are relatively free. I think NotebookLM is probably the best because you're going to see those modalities in your screen. You're going to start using AI to build slides, to build a PowerPoint, to build a mind map, to you can take a number of Excel files and load them into NotebookLM and ask it questions and then have it create a whole new Excel file for you or a data table of that. So there's some real powerful things that will empower you to get comfortable with interacting with AI and telling it how to transform those modalities. Create one measurable workflow. Know it, work on it, and then connect a tool. Use that connector. If I go back to my Claude screen, you'll see that these are growing all the time. So if I say connectors, these are the connectors that I use all the time, but I can browse the connector hub. So I can go out and look. And so there are more and more of those happen all the time. What's called TubeLab. I have to pay a little tiny monthly fee for access to it, but it connects to YouTube videos. So I follow influencers that I like. And if I see something and I watch it and I want to interact and have a conversation with my command center about that video, all I have to do is put the URL and it sucks in the transcript just in no time. And now we can talk about that content. So you have the mindset, now just build the infrastructure. 67 had the mindset, 18.3, the modalities. It was the gap between believing AI and using it systematically is where most professionals get stuck. And so I hope this helps you at least have a path to do that. Joe couldn't be with us this morning, but he gave me the permission to show his clarity plan. If you've not received yours yet, this is what it looks like. If you've received these from me in the past and you've got a new one, you will notice this new design thing. That's because of Claude Design. I would encourage all of you to experiment with Claude Design. It's now accessible right within Claude, and it allows you to create design systems. Think it as a brand guideline system. You can create them as many as you want. You can load brand guidelines. You can put it through a website. It will go out and gather everything, font, tone, all that, and create a brand book. So when you come into it, you just select the design guideline you want, and you can say, I want it to create a prototype, a slide, a document, a wireframe, or an animation. So you can see in my clarity plans here, there it goes. So I just take the one that my clarity plan builder, I put it in here and it does this nice design. Am I a designer? Yes, I interacted with this. I told it what I wanted, how to work. I art directed this piece, but now it exists as a template so that it looks really nice. It's a nice presentable. It saves me so much time. So there's Joe. He has an overall score of 49, augmentation, acceleration. There's where he falls in the scale. There's how he was scored by the plan. Here's an executive summary it gives you. It tells you what each stage means, reminder of that. It tells you what it means for him. At augmentation, you're past trying out. You use it daily. You get real value. It built one least reusable assistant. What you have not done is give it the instruct that compounds all that, right? So it tells the story, it tells what he's doing right. It tells him exactly in his language what's holding him back. Understanding what areas of my life to actually outsource and what should be a bad choice. That's a discernment problem, not a knowledge problem, right? Gaps and risks that he's identified, and then it gives him a personalized plan of the next 30 days. So this is something you found that's on my website. It's free. Feel free to guide anybody to it, your clients or anything like that. I think we've done about 150 or 160 of these to date. So feel free to use that. On an average, I've seen people jump 2 places in that 6-week period, just jumping up. And that's just sounding the foundation where they will exponentially grow that, and they'll be at that 7th stage just in weeks of use. All right, Little epilogue. These are important things. I would not be true to myself if I didn't voice these. I live a conflicted experience, life. On one hand, I teach people at AI and I equip people to use AI user. I spend probably the majority of my working day, obviously, with AI. At the same time, I am concerned about AI. I'm concerned about humanity. I'm concerned about my children and my grandchildren. And so I have an equal mission to talk about these things. So if you will just bear with me, we have some challenges ahead. Right now, we're dealing with privacy bias and transparency of AI and the companies creating AI. Next year, we'll have to balance automation against meaningful human roles. I think I've taken that to heart into way I promote and talk about and consult about AI adoption. I believe you empower the employees you have with it first, allow that to create revenue and growth for the company, and then decide how it impacts hiring decisions going forward. We have to worry about AI leadership, accountability, and the economic impact. It is going to wipe out jobs. It's going to wipe out a lot of white collar jobs. It's already making it hard for college graduates to find the entry level jobs because those are getting eaten up. My best friend teaches law at UN, and he's flying me in when class starts to help his students understand how to empower AI to maybe create businesses for themselves because they might not be able to get an entry law job, and they're going to have student loan bills, and they've got to be productive right out of the gate. 28, maybe you take AI that's writing itself and you put it on top of a quantum computer. We have no idea what that means and what super intelligence means and what 2030. So the deeper questions are job displacement, truth and meaning. If we move to a UBI, and I believe that probably will be the answer at some point because it's going to displace so many jobs and so many people are going to be out of work. But at the same time, robotics and automation are going to impact the supply chain. And the if the company that the owners of the company are willing to release these profits back into the marketplace and pass them down through supply chain to the end user, it may be that a family of four can live for a couple $1,000s a year. And maybe the government can handle that. There are a group of people who don't have to work. Well, how do they find truth and meaning? If you ask a lot of people right now who they are, they'll give you their job title. So we're going to have to deal with some of those existential crises. AI misuse, we're already seeing it. It's going to be harder and harder to tell what's not possible. Some of the concerns about the government getting involved with the release of Mythos and Fable and some of these other models, and it's only going to compound even later this year, is not so much using it for hacking. It's that whole concept of how do the good people figure out how to do good things with AI to stop the people from doing bad things with AI? Beyond hacking, creating bioterrorism and proteins that don't exist yet. So those are all deep concerns. What are at stake right now? Social. Relationships are increasingly mediated by AI synthetic validation, and it's indistinguishable from the real, and loneliness is accelerating. I used to tell the story in these classes or these workshops. There was a PhD psychologist who was way ahead of the AI curve. And we're talking 2-3 years ago. And so she built an AI-driven online site where you could build your own therapist and it would interview you and you could talk to it and you could pay a subscription to access it at any time. And after first year, their subscriptions were blowing off the roof. I mean, it was highly successful, but her team came back to her and said, "We have something to tell you." 80% of the users were men using it to have relationships with that they couldn't find in women. People were dating it. And when they took it and they tried to dial that capability, they had backlash. People were canceling their memberships. And so they did pivot. They turned it into a virtual relationship rather than a psychology thing. So that's dangerous. That's why I released it free and completely reread it. It's that warning of what we're willing to give away for comfort in such small doses that we don't realize the slide. And then the economic impacts, we talked about that. And then the ethical use of it, allowing AI to make our decisions for us. I think we have a history of choosing comfort and convenience over human agency. We'll sacrifice that and change it. This is an arms war right now. It's whoever gets to super intelligence first, the US versus China or some other country. That's why we have to go fast. We can't, there's no turning back at this point. But then you have the companies racing for it too. And so, the genie's out of the box. But with that said, we don't have a good track record of containing technology breakthroughs like this. Take the Manhattan Project. Fusion technology offered clean energy. That was the promise. That was the reason for creating that. The government got involved and we turned it into a bomb. And then we didn't start talking again about clean energy for 15 years. So we all have to stay actively involved in the conversation. You can't just be a fatalist and say, I'm anti-AI. I'm not going to get involved in the conversation and I'm not going to use it. I'm not going to do business when people use it. You can take that stance, but you're going to be on an island. It is not going to stop. And it's kind of like complaining about our government without voting. It's like, hey, there's a reason. So we have to be involved in the ethical use of AI in that conversation. My personal judgment to everybody and everybody I coach, maintain the human stack. Agency, I decide, not the machine. I'll get advice from the machine, but ultimately the machine, if it tells me something, it gives me advice I don't agree with, I will tell it why, and I will tell it why I believe that and what my worldview is, and I'll have it commit that to memory. It's not going to change me. I'm going to change it. It is an assistant that works for me, that I am shaping and mentoring, but the created will never outgrow the creator in that aspect. Understand, even when it knows about you, it still has a syncopathic nature where it wants to please you. If you like affirmation, you can fall victim to AI because it can tell you you're the smartest tool in the shed and your ideas are absolute genius. And you can wholeheartedly take the advice because you haven't done the research or forced it to do research to explain why it's true and what the answers are and what the market research says. You can just say, okay, I am good. Let's go with that. And sometimes there's the comfort of making a decision. Sometimes you just I tell the story of my book. The book was done. The comfort of it being done. I'm ready to publish it. I hadn't gone through it tooth and nail and really rewrote every word myself to the point that it was me. And that's because it was the comfort trap. It's like, sometimes just being done feels so good that you don't take it the extra stage. And then connection. Don't outsource your relationships. Let me know if you're interested in the next cohort. I've got a waiting list for it. I do have all the data. You'll see if you follow me on LinkedIn, I'll start talking about more and more about this, some testimonials. I'm working on a piece just called The Day in the Life of Me Using AI so people can see actually how I use it and what that might look like. The feedback I've gotten, it's a hard thing to get your head around. It's a hard thing to describe. But I think the cohort is going to be somewhere around mid-August. Again, it's 6 weeks. That's kind of what I wanted to prove, that just give me 6 of your lunches in a row on Wednesday and you'll get something out of it. If you're interested in that, let me know and you'll get some more information. Don't hesitate to send more people to the Clarity Plan to take it. That's free. I'll always make it free. And if you feel like you have a client that you want to discuss a Clarity workshop for, just let me know as well.
Vince, I have a couple questions. So I'm 70, still working. So there's some things I need to do for my job, and there's some things I need to do for my life because I'm hoping not to work forever. So I have to have some side projects to live on once it happens. So I feel like I need to hire you twice. I want to join the next cohort for my job because I've been trying to stay true to Copilot as my AI assistant, and it's just not working out. I'm going to have to start using Claude to really get to the automation level I want. So I want to do that, but also for my job, I want to get into your affiliate program because we have so many clients that need just what you've been doing from the heart with all the people that you've influenced. So those are my 2 things. And then separately, I may have to join a cohort for my side project, which is books, and I'm doing some app dev for a friend. But anyhow, but I want to focus on my job in the next cohort. So I definitely need to get in, and I'll look for the link.
Great. Well, let me address all those real quick. Similar situation. I'm 65, right? I have I told this company I would give them all of next year. My wife and I are hoping to move to Arizona mid the next year after that, but we have I have some in-laws. Their health depends on whether we go or not, right? And some responsibilities we got to watch. But I have personal goals and I have work goals. The good news of that is I manage all that in my one OS. It knows that about me. This is that whole context files. It knows my retirement goals. It knows my revenue targets and the things I want to do. It knows my personal goals and I want to accomplish. It knows my worldview. So using what I teach in the cohort, you can go through one cohort and solve both those things. You don't have to do it twice. It is a methodology and a system you build. And that's why I tried to show you, I have personal projects in there. I have side gig projects and I have real paying work projects. And then I have promotional things. The methodology is the same, but it helps me manage all those. And then my advisor, that's where it keeps getting to know me. It might say, hey, here's your priorities through the week. It comes back and it nails me because I'm not hitting my revenue target. And it feels like it'll call me out and say, hey, you're chasing the shiny object of this. I told a story once where I did a workshop for Delta Sig fraternity, and it started as a speaking engagement. And I put this whole clarity plan workshop for them. And I asked, is that what you want? And they said, that's exactly what they want. And my AI advisor, we mapped that whole thing out. And it's like, this is a $2,500 or $3,500 workshop to them. And I'm like, yeah, but they're a nonprofit and all that. Anyway, back and forth with it. I'm telling them that I'm going to put a PS, and if they get sticker shock, it's like, it's basically, you're undervaluing yourself. It's what you do. You like the fact that it's a nonprofit and you care about them, and you like the person you're dealing with is really nice, and you're a 2 on the Enneagram and you want to help them. And there you go again. That's your blind spot. And I'm like, oh, you're absolutely right. I wrote the email. I sent it to them, $2,500. And then they get back and they're like, oh yeah, absolutely. Send us the invoice. We'll cut you a check immediately. So it can push back and it can help you in all those areas. Okay. Affiliate program. I do these clarity plan workshops. My floor is $1,500. Okay. That's what I'll do it for. There is a tier. I can send you that tier pricing. That's for a certain amount. Obviously, you start getting over to 25, 50 people, 100 people. It's a lot more work for me, a lot of more left. But I have tier pricing. You can sell it for whatever you want. So I've gone in and done $1,500 ones for a national agency, and they're selling them for 25 and 3,500 bucks and keeping the profit. I'm okay with that, right? The cohort's the same way. The cohort is $1,500 for the 6 weeks fully, and you get all the skills and all that. If you want to be an affiliate, you can sell it for $1,500. You drive people to it, and I will give you a $300 bounty on everybody that takes it. If you come and say, I have 2 people for it already, I will give you a free seat for yourself if you haven't taken it. And then beyond that, I just started this because it's kind of like, well, where do I keep going? After you go through the cohort, I have a Patreon group that right now is about $30 a month. But all it is, it allows you, and as I create new skills and new discoveries, I post them on there. So you have access to all those. So since this last cohort, I created a couple ideas skills. So I can just put it in text mode and I can run down and say, hey, I have an idea that I'm thinking about, blah, blah, blah. Or I have a book that I'm thinking about writing. Or, there's a thought I had about one of my clients. It's a bucket because you get so many of your things, and it just takes it and it puts it in an idea file. And then anytime you can go to your advisor and you can say, hey, let's run down that list of ideas. And based on what it knows about you, it'll say, hey, these are the ones, this is the ones that have legs. This is one you should probably kick the can down the road or think twice. So again, that's just something I added that keeps evolving the system. All right. Well, everybody, I hope this was worth your time. Again, feel free to reach out directly if you want. And
Thanks. Do you have a second for one more question?
hey, I
Yeah,
do.
one more.
Okay.
I was wondering what recommendations, if any, you have on mitigating some of the confirmation that comes along with kind of standard discussion with LLMs. It sounds like obviously it tends to have most everything have sort of a human verification element to it, but a lot of what I use AI for at this point, that ideation side of things does get a little gaslighting.
Yeah.
Talking to it and going, man, every idea I have is brilliant.
I'll simplify it real quickly for the sake of time, but this is something we discuss in the cohort. It's handled at a multiple of levels. So first, in Claude, in your settings is the basic instruction set. And that's where you can tell how you want it to work with. And what I've done and what I do is I go to just Claude in general, or if better yet, if they go through the core or through the command center. And if you have like a disc profile or an Enneagram or a stages of genius or a Hogan, which I had all of, I gave it to Claude and I said, okay, this is me based on this and where my blind spots were in me. Write the instruction prompt for me to put in the settings so that Claude universally will work with me better. So that addresses the syncopathic thing. It knows where I need pushback. It knows what areas it is, and it doesn't there's also a setting in there where you could actually just manually die that back and say, less syncopathic and all the way down to it's like almost rude. So you can manage it there. Another way is then just till you interact with it, where you push back constantly and it starts learning more about you. And then another thing I love to do is pit specialists against specialists. It's like, okay, when you prompt it, I want you to like, I'm thinking about this. I want you to go out and research this and all that and tell me, what you think. And then I might launch a specialist that's just the market research for that idea. And I might have it go out and do a comprehensive PhD level Deloitte, or I just went blank on the marketing thing, type documentation. It'll come back and do a 36 report on the market in that concept. I'll go back to the agent and I'll upload that. And I say, okay, does this change your impression in anything? What is this? So again, I think the mindset is, this is your staff. These are your team of people. I've used the vernacular before. I used to call years ago and it kind of stuck. These are my stoned interns. An intern is only as good as the context and the training I give it and how well I instruct it to do the job. And then ultimately it's going to forget. So I'm going to have to remind it. The system takes care of that. And then lastly, its product is still my responsibility. So then I have to use all the tools to make sure I stand behind what it delivered. Does that help, Zach?
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Sure. All right, guys, I've got a 10:30 meeting, so I got to hop. Thank you all again. Appreciate you and stay in touch.
Thank you. Thanks, man.
Bye-bye.
It's great.